Okay, so this final video in our Declaration of Independence notes, we have just finished the third and long section of the list of grievances where we listed all the different individual issues we were having with the King of England and the British government. And we ended by saying, you have been deaf to the voice of justice and our blood relation. We must therefore acquiesce and learn to accept the necessity and denounce our separation. We are breaking up, and we hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. The last paragraph is the fourth section, and that fourth section is called the Resolution of Independence. A resolution means what was solved, what was learned, what was agreed upon. This is what was voted upon by our members of the Second Continental Congress. We voted on and voted yes for a resolution of independence. This is us saying we're our own thing now. Okay? We're no longer British colonies. Let's see what it says. It says, we, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, new name ish, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world. All right. This is a reference to God or Creator, or however we referenced it earlier in the documents. We've appealed to God for the rectitude of our intentions. Rightness. I don't really even, we're going to use that as a word. All right. We've been asking God and praying to God and asking God, are we doing the right thing? And we're saying, God is saying, yeah, we're doing the right thing, and we're set with that. We're at peace with that. Do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these United States are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. Okay, so what we're saying is, as our own country, we have the right to do big boy, big girl country type things. Countries can declare war on each other. We can now do that without the say of the king. We can conclude peace with one another. We can contract alliances, meaning making friends with other countries without the king being involved. We can establish commerce, create our own business and trade without the king. And we can do all the other acts and things which independent countries may do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, holy God, there's no reference to God, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. John Hancock plus 55 others. Okay, let's talk about a few of these names here that are listed below. Remember, the names and signatures are not a fifth section. They just appear at the bottom of the document. We know that John Hancock signs it first. Why does he sign it first? Well, as we've learned multiple times in this unit, he was the president of the Second Continental Congress. And that's why he gets to sign it first, and he signs it really, really large, front and center. And we learned that he wrote it big enough for King George III, right, to read without his spectacles or glasses, right? We learned about that story, about John Hancock's signature. And then you have all the other representatives from the Second Continental Congress listed below by colony. Now, on the original document, it doesn't have the colonies written in name. They're just, you see a bunch of names clumped together in groups, and those are arranged by what colony they're from. The order that it's listed here is the order in which the order of the voting for the resolution for independence. You may notice that Massachusetts has John Hancock down here as well. It's important to note that he did not sign twice. This copy that you are reading with the notes shows John Hancock signing first, and they just list him down here to remind you that he was from the Massachusetts colony. But you already have that in your notes a few different places, including your belligerent notes. And you may also notice that the colonies are listed kind of in a north to south fashion, kind of north and down to Massachusetts, and Rhode Island kind of sweeps over to Connecticut and down to New York and head south. Okay, some other names that you will recognize from your belligerent: Sam Adams, you got. All right, you got John Adams. He's going to be big, right? One of the most important people at this point in time. Why? Well, one, he helped write this. At the Second Continental Congress, he also is the person who nominates George Washington. And ultimately, later on in the future, becomes the first ever vice president we ever have in this country, and the second president we ever have after George Washington is done. Now, a couple other names on this front side that you may not recognize, but I just want to point out for reference: Roger Sherman from Connecticut, Philip Livingston from New York. And these two are two quote-unquote others. And I hate to make them sound not important, but they were actually on the committee to draft the Declaration of Independence. It was actually a 5-person committee, but we really only refer to the big 3 guys on that committee. Okay, Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin. These 2 guys were also there. Okay, I hate to make them not sound important, but with those other 3 personalities in the room, these guys probably didn't get much in edgewise. Obviously, Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin are going to be kind of the motor that makes this declaration run. Okay. Now, as we look at the back, you'll notice some of the bigger colonies that had the most representatives present at the Second Continental Congress. You should also notice that the colonies with the fewest people, the lowest number that we see is 3. Okay, the biggest number we see is Pennsylvania with 9. Okay, which makes sense because the Second Continental Congress was held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right? At the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall. Virginia was the second most with 7. Remember, they also had George Washington, but he's not listed here because he was off fighting the war at this time. We're going to do 2 more names. Ben Franklin, you obviously recognize from your belligerent notes. He also helped write this. He's also on the $100 bill, as we're aware. He's one of only 2 people on our standard U.S. currency or money that wasn't ever a president. And then Virginia, we got the big ticket guy. All right. The cat's pajamas here. All right. Thomas Jefferson. He is the main author of this document. He is the writer. He wrote that thing. And he will eventually become the 3rd president of the United States much later on down the line. All right, that'll do it. That concludes this video, and that concludes our notes on the most historical document in our nation's history, the Declaration of Independence.